The calm before the storm. The year was 2162, a time when humanity had reached its zenith in technological advancement, yet found itself teetering on the brink of annihilation. Earth had become a bastion of hope amidst a galaxy fraught with war, its colonies scattered across the solar system like fragile glass ornaments, each one vulnerable to destruction by the ever-looming threat of the Xantine Empire. In orbit around Jupiter, a fleet of sleek warships glimmered ominously against the backdrop of swirling storms. These vessels were not just ships, they were harbingers of doom, each one bristling with weapons designed for one purpose: domination. At the helm of this formidable armada was Admiral Thull, a creature as alien as he was cunning, his iridescent scales reflecting a cruel confidence that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to oppose him. On board the experimental warship Vengeance, Commander Sean Clark stood resolute at his control panel, his fingers dancing over buttons and switches with a precision born from years of training and an unyielding desire for vengeance. His eyes, hardened by loss and determination, were fixed on readouts that displayed vital information about both his ship and the enemy fleet ahead. This was not just another mission. This was humanity's last stand against an enemy that had already laid waste to countless colonies. Sean's mind drifted back to that fateful day in 2157 when everything changed. The day Mars fell. He could still hear the screams echoing in his mind, see the flames consuming everything he held dear. He had watched helplessly as his home burned under Xantine bombardment, leaving him as one of the few survivors, a burden he carried like a lead weight on his shoulders. Now, as he prepared to unleash a weapon he had spent 5 grueling years developing, he felt that weight pressing down harder than ever. "Shields down." Admiral Thull's voice crackled through the comms, dripping with contempt as he surveyed Sean's lone vessel on his display screen. Let them see how futile their efforts truly are. Sean clenched his jaw at Thull's taunts but remained focused on his mission. He had gambled everything on this moment, the culmination of years spent in secret underground facilities where scientists worked tirelessly to create a weapon capable of turning the tide against their oppressors. As he stared at the energy signature building before him, a blinding wave that promised destruction, he felt a surge of hope mixed with fear. "Prepare to fire," he commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling within him. The crew moved swiftly at his orders, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they anticipated what was about to unfold. In that moment, Sean carried not just his own hopes, but those of every surviving human who had suffered under Xantine rule. He took a deep breath and pressed the activation switch. A brilliant flash erupted from Vengeance, cascading over the Xantine fleet like a tidal wave of wrath. Ship after ship disintegrated before his eyes. Their unshielded hulls offered no resistance against the devastating energy unleashed upon them. What had once been a fearsome invasion force now floated lifelessly in space, a mere echo of its former might. Thull's laughter turned into screams of disbelief as his grand armada vanished into atoms within minutes. Victory surged through Sean like an electric current. He exhaled slowly, trembling with exhaustion yet exhilarated by what he had just accomplished. But amidst this triumph came an unexpected signal, a distress ping emanating from among the wreckage. A single escape pod had survived. It drifted like a solitary star amidst a sea of debris. Sean maneuvered Vengeance closer, disbelief washing over him as sensors confirmed what seemed impossible. Admiral Thull had survived. As he prepared to retrieve Thull's pod, conflicting emotions churned within him like storm clouds gathering before a tempest. The desire for vengeance burned hot in his chest, an urge to leave Thull to die among his fallen comrades. But reason whispered that capturing such a high-ranking prisoner could be strategically advantageous for humanity's future. With gritted teeth, Sean activated the tractor beam, drawing Thull's pod into Vengeance's hold. As he pondered what lay ahead, victory tinged with uncertainty, he understood that while this battle was won, the war was far from over. The Xantine Empire would not take this defeat lightly. They would retaliate. As Vengeance's engines hummed softly beneath him, Sean piloted through Earth's atmosphere toward New Geneva, the sprawling megacity that stood as humanity's last bastion against annihilation. His grip tightened on the controls as anxiety knotted in his stomach. He was acutely aware that Admiral Thull was secured below deck, a living reminder of both victory and potential doom. Upon landing, heavily armed soldiers surrounded Vengeance, their weapons trained on every exit point. General Cho strode forward, a stern-faced woman with close-cropped gray hair who seemed unfazed by their recent triumph. "Commander Clark," she said sharply as he stepped out onto solid ground, "we need to discuss your actions." Respectfully, Sean interrupted, "I need to brief you on what just happened." General Cho narrowed her eyes but nodded curtly. She understood that this wasn't merely about protocol. It was about survival. As they moved into a secure briefing room, filled with military brass buzzing with excitement and tension alike, Sean detailed how he had captured Admiral Thull, how they might use him to glean information about Xantine technology and strategy moving forward. The room buzzed with heated debate. Some argued for immediate execution, while others saw potential value in keeping Thull alive for intelligence purposes. Finally, President Evelyn Carter raised her hand for silence. "You have 2 weeks," she said firmly after listening intently to Sean's arguments about trust building and potential long-term benefits from diplomacy with their enemy turned prisoner. "After that time frame is up, we do this our way." In those days following President Carter's ultimatum, Sean found himself watching over Thull in sterile medical quarters while doctors tended to injuries sustained during capture. As he observed those iridescent scales gleaming under harsh lights, those 4 eyes blinking rapidly, he felt an unexpected pang of empathy for this creature who represented everything he had fought against. "Why do you bother with this charade?" Thull growled weakly as nurses adjusted IV lines around him. "Because I want to understand," Sean replied honestly. As their conversations deepened over time, discussing battles fought across distant worlds, Sean began piecing together fragments of history from Thull's perspective. Tales woven from desperation rather than malice, an empire struggling for survival amid cosmic chaos. But even amidst these tentative steps toward understanding came whispers from other factions within Earth's military, voices calling for immediate action against any lingering threats posed by Xantine forces still lurking beyond their borders. And so began an uneasy alliance forged under duress, a fragile hope born out of necessity rather than trust, as both sides grappled with what it meant to coexist in an ever-expanding universe fraught with danger at every turn. The battle begins. The tension in the command center was palpable as alarms blared and red lights flashed ominously. General Cho stood at the forefront, her expression a mask of grim determination. "Long-range sensors have detected a massive Xantine fleet entering the solar system," she announced, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We estimate less than 72 hours before they reach Earth." Sean's heart sank as he absorbed the implications of her words. The victory over Thull's fleet had been monumental, but it had only bought them time. Now, an even larger force was barreling toward them, and they were still reeling from their recent confrontation. "Immediate action is required," shouted one of the officers, his voice rising above the din. "We need to deploy our new weapons. We can't let them reach Earth." "Calm down," General Cho snapped back, her eyes narrowing. "We're not ready for a full-scale engagement. Our new shields aren't perfected yet, and we haven't even established diplomatic channels with Thull's people." Sean felt a surge of frustration. They had barely begun to understand the Xantine perspective, and now they were being pushed into a corner by their own military leaders. He stepped forward, attempting to regain control of the situation. "We need to use this opportunity to negotiate. If we can convince Thull to act as an intermediary." "Enough of your misguided sympathy, Clark," General Cho interrupted, her voice laced with anger. "That monster's people are coming to wipe us out. We need to strike first, and strike hard." Sean clenched his fists, feeling the weight of desperation pressing down on him. And then what? We destroy their fleet, and they sent another and another. This isn't sustainable. President Evelyn Carter had been silent until now, observing the heated exchange with a keen eye. She raised her hand for silence, commanding immediate attention. What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Clark? Sean took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he was about to suggest. Let me take Thole to meet the incoming fleet. He can act as an intermediary, open a dialogue. It's a risk, yes, but it might be our only shot at long-term peace. The room fell silent as everyone processed his words. The tension hung thick in the air like smoke after an explosion. You have 24 hours to make this work, President Carter finally said, her tone leaving no room for argument. After that, we launch everything we have. As Sean hurried back to Thole's quarters, his mind raced with possibilities and pitfalls. He had one chance to convince a former enemy to save them all. The true test of everything he'd worked for was about to begin. He burst through the door of Thole's room, startling the Xantine admiral from his thoughts. We need to move, Sean said urgently, his voice taut with anxiety. Earth's in danger, and you might be our only chance at averting disaster. Thole blinked rapidly, processing Sean's words with a mixture of confusion and curiosity. What is happening? He asked in his deep voice. Before Sean could respond, General Marcus Steele stormed into the room, flanked by a squad of heavily armed soldiers. His face twisted with disgust as he glared at Thole. Seize them both. Steele barked, his voice dripping with venomous intent. The alien dies tonight. Sean's mind reeled as soldiers surrounded them. Panic surged through him like wildfire. He locked eyes with Thole, a silent understanding passing between them amidst the chaos. In a fluid motion born from instinct rather than thought, Sean grabbed a nearby medical tray and hurled it at the nearest soldier, while Thole lashed out with surprising speed despite his weakened state. His clawed hand connected with another guard's face. Chaos erupted in the small room as Sean ducked under a swing aimed at him from Steele and drove his shoulder into the general's midsection. They crashed into the wall together. Medical equipment clattered to the floor around them. Clark. Dr. Ilara Voss's voice cut through the commotion as she stood in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock. This way. Without hesitation, Sean grabbed Thole's arm and pulled him toward Ilara as she led them down a service corridor, the sounds of pursuit growing distant behind them. What's going on? Sean demanded breathlessly. Steele staged a coup, Ilara replied urgently as they ran. He's taken control of key installations and declared martial law. He's hell-bent on wiping out any chance of Xantine diplomacy. They rounded a corner and nearly collided with Lieutenant Chen, one of the few who had shown support for Sean's diplomatic efforts during tense meetings. We're heading to a secured hangar bay, Chen said quickly as they expanded their group into a tight-knit unit. Inside the hangar sat a sleek scout ship, its experimental design incorporating some of the Xantine technology they had reverse-engineered during their time together. It's our only shot, Ilara explained as they hurried aboard. Advanced stealth systems and a prototype of your weapon. Sean took the pilot's seat. His fingers flew over unfamiliar controls as he activated systems that hummed to life beneath him, while hangar doors began to open. A barrage of weapons fire peppered their hull just as they were about to launch. Hold on, Sean shouted as he punched the throttle forward. The scout ship shot into the night sky behind them, while Earth's sprawling complex shrank into the distance. Once they achieved stable orbit, Sean turned to assess their situation. His heart sank when he saw Ilara slumped in her seat, blood seeping through her fingers where she clutched her side. I'm fine, she insisted through gritted teeth, but her pallor told a different story. Lieutenant Chen, Sean called out urgently as he plotted their course toward intercepting the Xantine fleet on long-range sensors that showed a menacing cluster steadily approaching Earth. I'll help her, Chen said quickly while assisting Ilara toward makeshift medical supplies on board. As Sean plotted their course toward where he believed Thole's fleet would be waiting for them, he felt an unexpected bond forming between himself and Thole, a shared understanding forged in desperation. "You said your people have advanced medical technology," Sean said suddenly, as he glanced back at Thul, while Chen worked on stabilizing Ilara's condition. "Can you help her?" Thul studied Chen's efforts closely before responding thoughtfully. "Our methods are different but effective." As they worked side by side, Thul adjusting makeshift bandages while Sean focused on piloting, the barriers between them began to crumble further. Stories flowed freely about their respective worlds and challenges faced by both species. For the first time since capturing Thul aboard Vengeance, Sean saw genuine regret in his eyes when Thul spoke about how desperation had driven his people toward war. A momentary glimpse into what lay beneath those iridescent scales hardened by conflict. Their moment of understanding was shattered suddenly by an urgent proximity alert. Weapons fire grazed their shields as alarms blared throughout the ship. "The Xantine fleet has detected us," Sean shouted over the din of battle as adrenaline surged through him like electricity coursing through live wires. "I'm attempting evasive maneuvers," Chen yelled back from his station, while Thul moved swiftly toward auxiliary controls, his clawed fingers dancing across panels that lit up under his touch. "I'm attempting to use an old command frequency if it hasn't been changed," Thul announced just before weapons fire ceased abruptly. A tense silence fell over them like fog rolling in from nowhere. Then Thul spoke again. "I've broken through. We have an open channel to their fleet commander." Sean took a deep breath. This was everything they'd worked for. The moment everything hinged upon him now rested on fragile diplomacy rather than brute force or technology alone. "This is Sean Clark of Earth." He began carefully into the comms system, his voice steady despite hammering adrenaline coursing through him like wildfire threatening to consume everything around him. "I come with a proposal that could save both our species." Before he could continue further, though, Thul stepped forward beside him. "Halt your attack, Commander." "This is Admiral Thul. The situation is far more complex than you realize." The Xantine commander's voice came through loud and clear, dripping with contempt. "Explain yourself, traitor." Thul didn't flinch at this insult. Instead, he pressed on. "Our sun is dying. You know this. But what you don't know is that humans possess technology that could save our world. We've been wrong about them. About this war. There's another way." As Thul spoke passionately about cooperation rather than conflict, Sean watched sensor readings closely. The Xantine fleet remained poised in attack formation, but hadn't opened fire yet. It was an encouraging sign. The silence that followed stretched endlessly, like time itself had come undone. Sean's hand hovered over weapon controls, readying himself for desperate measures should diplomacy fail once more. Finally, the Xantine commander's voice returned. "You will be escorted to our flagship. Any deviation from your designated flight path will result in your immediate destruction." Sean exhaled slowly, feeling tension drain from his body. They had a chance, however slim it may be. Guiding their scout ship toward massive Xantine flagship looming before them, its imposing silhouette filling view screen, Sean steeled himself knowing real challenges lay ahead. As they touched down within docking bay, acutely aware escort fighters flanked them on all sides. He turned towards companions. "This is it. Everything we've worked for comes down to this moment." Dr. Voss checked her medical kit with determination shining in her eyes, despite pallor indicating fatigue. "I'm ready." A stern-faced Xantine official approached, flanked by entourage of advisors. "I am Supreme Commander Zakel. You will follow me to War Council chambers. Any deviation from our path will be met with lethal force." Sean inclined head respectfully. "Understood, Commander. We appreciate your willingness to meet with us." As they were led through winding corridors aboard flagship, taking in details, contrasting architecture, blending organic curves, sharp angles utterly alien yet hauntingly beautiful, he couldn't help marveling engineering prowess represented. Zakel took place at head council table. "Speak quickly, human. Why should we not obliterate your planet this very moment?" Stepping forward confidently, despite hammering heart within chest, because doing so would doom both our species. We have means save your world, to end this war, not through destruction but creation. Murmurs rippled council members listening intently while Sean delved specifics plan. Dr. Voss stepped in lending weight proposals further explaining biochemical pathways adaptable Earth's flora, produce nutrients vital survival. Suddenly urgent alert cut chamber. Young officer burst in scales pale alarmed. Supreme Commander, we're under attack. Human fleet has launched massive assault. Chaos erupted. War room holographic displays flickered life showing unfolding battle. Horror-stricken Sean watched human ships unleash salvos energy weapons matching prototype he'd helped develop. No, he breathed, incredulous realization dawning upon him. Steel had betrayed everything they'd fought for. Weapons tore space, catastrophic, unpredictable. Xantane ships exploded brilliant flashes, while others drifted powerless, systems overloaded. But carnage wasn't one-sided. As human vessels suffered similar fates, consumed forces unleashed. Sean's mind raced, turning. Zakel barking orders. Fleet Commander, listen me, those weapons are unstable, unlikely allies. Chaos erupted in the War Council chamber as alarms blared and holographic displays flickered with images of destruction. Sean's heart raced as he watched human ships engage the Xantine fleet, their weapons firing indiscriminately. The realization that General Steele had betrayed their fragile alliance hit him like a punch to the gut. No, Sean shouted, his voice rising above the din. Stop this madness. You're destroying any chance we have for peace. Supreme Commander Zachel's eyes narrowed, his scales shimmering with anger. You dare to lecture us, human? Your kind has brought this upon yourselves. You will pay for your treachery. Zachel, listen to me, Sean pleaded, desperation clawing at his throat. We can stop this. We can work together to save both our peoples. Dr. Ilara Voss stepped forward, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. The weapons being deployed are unstable. They threaten not only the Xantane fleet, but also Earth itself. If we do not act quickly, we will all be obliterated. Zachel hesitated, his expression shifting from anger to contemplation as he processed her words. What do you propose? Sean seized the moment, his mind racing with possibilities. We need to establish a ceasefire. Immediately. I can communicate with my fleet and convince them to stand down if you agree to do the same. Zachel's gaze flickered to the holographic display, showing the carnage unfolding outside. And if you fail, if your people refuse to listen, then we will find another way, Sean replied, determination surging within him. But we must try, for the sake of both our species. Zachel nodded slowly, a flicker of respect crossing his features. Very well, human. We will give you this chance, but know that any further betrayal will be met with swift retribution. As Zachel relayed orders to halt the assault, Sean felt a wave of relief wash over him. He turned to Dr. Voss and Thul, who had been watching intently. We need to get in contact with my fleet, he said urgently. Thul moved swiftly to an auxiliary control panel, his clawed fingers flying over the controls as he accessed communication channels. I am attempting to reach your command ship, he announced. Sean held his breath as he watched Thul work, praying that they could salvage what remained of their alliance before it was too late. After what felt like an eternity, Thul's voice broke through the static. I have established a connection with your fleet commander. Commander Harris, Sean said into the comms system, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. This is Sean Clark aboard a Xantine flagship. We need you to stand down your forces immediately. What? Commander Harris's voice crackled back in disbelief. You're on a Xantine ship. Are you insane? It's true, Thul interjected, his tone firm yet calm. We are negotiating for peace. Your attack threatens not only us, but also your own people. There was a long pause before Harris responded hesitantly. If this is some kind of trick, it's not. Sean insisted, cutting him off before he could finish. We are trying to save lives here. Please trust me. I need you to call off the attack." Finally, after what felt like an eternity of silence, Harris relented. "Fine. I'll order a ceasefire, but if anything goes wrong—" "It won't," Sean assured him firmly. As communication ended and Zackle confirmed that both fleets would stand down, a tense silence fell over the War Council chamber. "Now what?" Zackle asked, crossing his arms as he regarded Sean and Ilara. "We need to present our plan for cooperation," Ilara replied confidently. "We can help each other survive. There are solutions that benefit both our peoples." Zackle nodded slowly but remained cautious. "Proceed." With renewed determination, Sean and Ilara laid out their proposal, combining Earth's agricultural technology with Xantine biology to create sustainable food sources for both species. Hours passed as they engaged in intense discussions and negotiations. Questions were raised about logistics and implementation, while tensions simmered beneath the surface. Eventually, Zackle leaned back in his seat and regarded Sean thoughtfully. "You have shown remarkable courage today, human," he said slowly. "Perhaps there is hope for our peoples after all." Just then, an urgent alert cut through their conversation. A young Xantine officer burst into the chamber again, panic etched across his face. "Supreme Commander, we're detecting an unidentified vessel approaching rapidly." "What now?" Zackle snapped impatiently. Sean's heart sank as he realized what this meant. Steele had not given up. He had sent reinforcements, or perhaps even more destructive weapons. "We need to prepare for another attack," Sean shouted as everyone scrambled into action. Thull moved quickly toward the control panel again, while Zackle barked orders at his officers. "Get me eyes on that ship," Zackle demanded. As they monitored incoming data on screens around them, Sean felt a growing sense of dread. Every second counted now. The unidentified vessel came into view, a massive warship emblazoned with Earth's insignia, but clearly modified for aggressive combat. "It's Steele," Sean exclaimed in horror as recognition dawned upon him. "Prepare defensive measures," Zackle ordered sharply. "No," Sean shouted desperately as realization struck him like lightning. Steele was going to attack regardless of their attempts at diplomacy. He turned toward Thull urgently. "We have to warn them. If Steele engages now—" "I'm on it," Thull replied without hesitation as he worked furiously at the controls. The tension in the room was electric. Everyone held their breath as they awaited confirmation from Thull about whether they could reach Steele's ship in time. Finally, after moments that felt like hours passed by, Thull looked up with determination etched across his features. "I have established communication with Steele's vessel." "Put it through," Sean commanded urgently. Steele's face appeared on screen, a sneer curling at the corners of his mouth as he regarded them from aboard his flagship. "You think you can negotiate your way out of this?" Steele mocked derisively. "I'll wipe out every last one of you." "General Steele," Sean shouted back fiercely, "you're making a grave mistake. We've established a ceasefire. You're putting everything we've worked for at risk." Steele laughed coldly. It echoed through the comm system like shards of ice piercing through flesh. "Your little alliance means nothing. I'll show you what real power looks like." As Steele prepared to give orders for an attack against both fleets, Sean felt panic rise within him. They had come too far for this. "Zackle," he shouted desperately. Urgency laced through every word. "We need to act now. If we don't stop him—" Zackle nodded sharply. Understanding flashed across his features as he turned toward Thull. "Can you override their systems?" Thull didn't hesitate. He began typing furiously at the control panel, while Zackle relayed commands to prepare defensive measures against Steele's impending assault. As they worked together, humans and Xantines united against a common enemy. Sean felt hope ignite within him once more. Perhaps this was what true cooperation looked like. "Almost there," Thull muttered under his breath as sweat beaded on his brow from concentration. Finally, the tension broke when Thull looked up triumphantly. I've overridden their systems. They cannot fire upon us." A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. But it was short-lived as Steele's face twisted into fury on screen. "You think you can stop me? I'll take down both fleets myself," he roared defiantly before slamming his fist against something off-screen in frustration. But before Steele could issue further commands, a blinding flash erupted from behind him, followed by an explosion that rocked his flagship. What just happened? Sean gasped in shock as chaos erupted around them once more. Zachel turned wide-eyed toward Thul. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Thul replied incredulously, confusion evident in his voice while alarms blared throughout their flagship once again. Suddenly another transmission came through. The voice was distorted but unmistakable. It was Commander Harris. "Sean, we're under attack from inside our own fleet. Steele has lost control. The situation is spiraling out of control." "No?" Sean breathed in disbelief. Everything they'd fought for was crumbling before their eyes. Zachel slammed his fist against the table in frustration. "We must act now before it's too late." Sean nodded resolutely. They couldn't let Steele destroy everything they'd built together. They needed a plan. "Thul," he said urgently while formulating ideas rapidly in his mind, "can we use our combined technology against Steele?" "Yes," Thul replied immediately, determination igniting within him once more. "If we can access their weapon systems, I can disable them from here." "Do it," Zachel commanded firmly while turning toward Sean. "Prepare your fleet. We will join forces against this traitor." With renewed purpose fueling their actions, they sprang into motion, working together seamlessly as humans and Santines united against a common enemy once more. As they coordinated efforts, the battle raged outside, flashes of light illuminating space like stars colliding while destruction reigned supreme around them. But amid chaos, a flicker of hope remained alive within each heart, fighting for survival, determined not just save themselves but forge something greater than either race had ever imagined possible. And so began their final stand against tyranny, a desperate gamble fueled by unity amidst chaos, their fates intertwined forevermore.